We're doing a follow-up. Last week, we told you about the tragedy in Thailand, where the only high-rise building that collapsed during the earthquake was the Chinese Belt and Road one, which had already been topped off. So the actual construction
was capped.
It was capped. It was completed. Obviously, not the sides and the glass and all the furnishings.
Just to remind everyone, it was built to be a bragging piece for the Chinese government for the Belt and Road Initiative about how they can build earthquake-proof structures.
Yes, that's part of
the only one.
Yeah, so we're actually going to show you here. Okay, so this is Chinese propaganda, Chinese performance, China's performance and China's final result.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a more updated picture of what it looked like. You can see the mess of steel and concrete.
And the rubber rebar.
Exactly, yeah. We weren't kidding about the rebar because it turns out it wasn't very good quality. Anyway, found this propaganda video. We can take a quick look.
Turn it down so it doesn't copyright.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So anyway, this was a propaganda video showing like how fast.
This is that building.
It is that building. How great the progress and how quick they can do it.
China's going to develop Thailand, Poor Thailand. China will come in and help.
Yes, exactly. We showed you this picture last time, but this is part of it, Now, there's an article bragging about this on the Chinese internet, okay, on this official website here, and it's showing everything about this building. You can see the propaganda photos. They go in depth about how this is such an incredibly good building and how it is good for withstanding seismic activity, and that's one of its strong suits, is that it's good at dealing with earthquakes, better than what Thailand has, in general. This technology is so good, it's so great. Exactly. As you can see, what do you think happens to articles like this when disaster strikes?
They're put on the news and they say, look, we found the problem. It was a corrupt, bad government policy.
No, the article was just deleted.
Yeah.
And if you try to go to it now, luckily, somebody archived the article. That's why I could find it still.
Excellent.
And the person who originally found the article archived it immediately, luckily, because it would have just disappeared.
I recommend people usually do that. If you see something that you think is going to go away from the Chinese government, archive it.
So that article that was bragging about how it's going to be like much better at withstanding earthquakes and so on, suddenly just disappeared because, of course, it was proven wrong. And that's always what happens with the Chinese propaganda, is that they promise these things. Oh, we're so good at our green technology. Look at our solar panels, are this or that. Everything is always like, we're so amazing. And because most of the time it's within the borders of China.
Yeah.
So you don't see the failures, right?
Yep.
And if it does fail, they just quietly get rid of it.
Yep.
But now it happened abroad.
Yep.
And it's impossible for them to cover it up. Right?
Yes.
But what they're doing is their normal tactic.
They're trying.
Their normal tactic of just removing.
I'll tell you
websites.
what, this got massive backlash when we put it out. And actually, a bunch of people have covered this, Thai people and stuff too. Obviously, it's in Thailand.
Yeah.
Huge backlash from the Wu Mao Ba army trying to be like, this is lie. You are lie.
Yeah.
You are liar.
Yes, exactly. By the way, we have a clearer footage of what happened. I thought I'd show everybody. I'll take the volume down. We don't need to hear it very much. But you can see it's much clearer. You can see the top of the building. It was capped off. Everything's finished.
It's done.
And it's done. They're just putting the glass cladding and all that kind of stuff on. The actual structure of the building is finished. And it's been finished long enough for the concrete to cure and harden and all that stuff. There's no excuses.
No.
All right? Because a lot of people are making excuses, but there are no excuses. And, down she goes.
Bye.
Yeah. It was the only high-rise in Thailand that fell.
It wasn't just the only Chinese building. It was the only building, period.
Yeah, the only high-rise building. There's another high-rise building that was abandoned that looks worse than that, in a skeletal form.
Yeah.
That was completed in 1991. It didn't fall down, and it was less along than this one, Wow,
that's great.
Like that guy got inside. So, now the interesting thing is the very next day, some people filmed some Chinese nationals. They hopped over the fence. They went into this area because now, listen, it's a disaster zone, right?
Yeah.
And by law, you're not allowed to enter the disaster zone.
It's got to be investigated and cleared.
Yes, and it's a danger. Yeah. And they filmed these Chinese nationals going in and stealing files
Basically spies.
Yeah, well, I mean, they obviously worked for the company.
And they mobilize people to go get stuff they shouldn't
So
get.
they went and they grabbed all the files that were there on site, like in an office or whatever, you know, and they put them in the back of a pickup truck and drove away. So they're basically making sure to get rid of the evidence.
So these Thai dudes were like, screw that.
Yeah, so
we're going to document this.
Exactly. Some Thai journalists actually filmed them. You can see they sped away in their Hilux, which, you know, they're not very careful about what they're doing, are they? Like dropping the files everywhere.
Rush, right?
Yeah,
and
this is like, it's kind of like when people are trying to shred the documents before the IRS arrives, you know?
Exactly.
It's that kind of thing.
No, better example.
What?
The Houston Chinese embassy.
When they were burning all the
everything.
documents, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, first of all, it was illegal for them to do this because you're not allowed to enter the site. But also, trying to hide evidence like this is not a good look for China.
It's crazy how they have to knee-jerk everything because they do everything so poorly and they only react when something bad happens.
Yes.
Right? Like this. They didn't expect this to fall down.
No.
They're like, no, there won't be a big enough earthquake in Thailand where our bad building quality, where we clearly cut corners and killed people.
Yes.
They're murderers.
Yes.
Right? The people that took the money, right, to cut corners on the concrete and the rebar and all this stuff because they found, like you said, the rebar quality was too low. To do this abroad in another country, they're murderers.
Yeah.
You should be tried for murder.
Well, I mean, like some of the Thai workers that were working on that building alongside with the Chinese workers and the Chinese construction people there were saying like the supports looked much smaller than they should be.
They knew.
Yeah, they were like
knew.
even one of the Thai like guys went and measured them and he was like, this is way too small. You know, there were no safety regulations. Workers were up there in sneakers and not wearing safety harnesses and stuff. You know, the usual type thing because there's so many corners are cut.
Yeah.
Anyway, they arrested 4 of these guys. You know,
right.
So they're in custody, and who knows what's going to happen with that. But apparently, the office of the company that actually built this thing is abandoned at the moment. No one's answering the phone, and it looks like pretty much everybody involved has run away to China.
And this is tied to the Chinese government, right?
Yes,
Yeah, right.
as you're going to see in a minute. And it's tied to something else, which no one seems to be talking about. But anyway, the Thai Inquirer put this out. They said Industry Minister Akanat Promvan, I have no idea how to say it,
right.
expressed shock after inspecting the steel used in the collapsed building. He noted irregularities but did not provide further details. The ministry has collected 6 different types of steel for further inspection, mostly from one producer. And by the way, the producer that put out the steel is a Chinese producer, of course, and it's been tied to other corrupt activities and other quality control issues where they have been falsifying what they're putting out and so on. So it's the typical thing.
Maybe Thailand will have to wake up to China's influence.
Yes.
These countries find out way too late.
I mean, China is the land of shortcuts and facades. And I mean, here it is out on display for everybody to see. And it's not within the borders of China, so they can't hide it.
I just can't believe that people, what's it called? Make excuses for the Chinese government when this kind of stuff happens.
By the way, does anybody remember this?
Yes. Serbia.
This is Serbia. The Novi Sad train station.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Collapsed.
Yeah, a massive big
front,
awning, you know, collapsed. Right? And this was, they basically refurbished it and they built this big new canopy, right? In Serbia. It collapsed end of last year, and killed 16 people.
In fact, there have been tens of thousands of people protesting in Serbia against this. It was a huge protest because Serbia now belongs to China. In fact, I just did a ranking of countries you shouldn't go to if China doesn't like you.
Yes.
If you said something bad. Serbia's almost at the bottom there because Serbia now has accepted so many projects from China that they're basically beholden to them. In fact, they have a joint police force now.
That's insane.
So the Chinese police remember we talked about Chinese secret police stations?
Yes.
They just have public ones
Yes,
there, right?
yes.
They're actually walking side by side with Serbian cops. And the Serbians are furious. They didn't want this to happen. They don't like
No.
the Chinese government.
No.
Serbians have reached out to us countless times now. They're some of the most passionate people we met.
Yep.
And they're like, I can't believe what's happening to my country. It's overtaken by China. And so these people were furious about this when this happened. That was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back.
Well, I mean, there's something else that you're going to have to know about this, okay? First of all, the Chinese company refused to check stability when they just poured extra concrete. They didn't do it to the right specs. They just didn't pay attention to safety standards, which is kind of normal.
Yep.
But I'd like you to pay attention to something. The Chinese company, which is the China Railway International Corporation, is a subsidiary of the China Railway Group Limited.
Good find.
So you know how a
dude. Good
subsidiary
find.
works, right?
Yep.
You've got your main company, the China Railway Group Limited, and this is one of their offshoots, basically, their subsidiary.
And the Chinese government has a golden share in the Chinese railway group.
Absolutely. I mean, what's happened is the China Railway Group has been in charge of a lot of construction projects within China, but now they've kind of run out. So they're scrambling for projects all over the world, and they're doing these BRI things.
They've done stuff in Africa.
Yes, of course. This is the main sort of BRI builder. So let's look at the skyscraper that collapsed in Thailand. Guess what? It was built and topped by the China Railway No. 10 Engineering Group, which is also a subsidiary of the China Railway Group.
Is it a subsidiary
Limited.
or is it under supervision?
Subsidiary.
Oh, interesting.
If you go look. So what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with the same company
Yeah, good find.
going around the world, completely different parts of the world here,
Yeah, true. Europe and Asia.
killing people because their crappy construction falls. Stop trusting China to build your infrastructure.
It's ridiculous.
Okay?
To even consider it's insane.
I mean, here's the thing. If that earthquake hadn't happened, it would have gone ahead. The building would have been good enough to stand with substandard rebar in it, substandard concrete, substandard safety measures, all that kind of stuff, right? Because corners are cut. And look, to be fair, when it comes to these projects, when it's down on paper, there's nothing wrong with the designs.
No.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with the proposals. If they say, we're going to build it to this spec and all that kind of stuff, that's all good. The problem is when you've got a Chinese company that's constructing it, shortcuts are going to happen. And unless you're there 24/7, eagle-eyeing every single thing and not willing to take a kickback, it's going to happen.
Yeah, they're going to use Snickers bars as rebar.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have a foreman or you're going to have a manager who's taking a kickback, who puts in like substandard stuff.
In China, you'll have a three-man.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
Cut
totally.
corners. You lose one of the men.
Yeah, that's a good way to say. Anyway, what I'm saying is you cannot trust the quality. There's no proper quality control with Chinese construction.
David has a great point here.
What's
David
that?
Lopan says it's a national security issue.
Yeah.
It is. Like, and I'm not talking about America. I'm talking about any country.
Yes.
Right? America's not doing BRI projects. But
Yeah.
if your country, and let's say you're in Hungary or these countries that are courting China at the moment, Greece, you gotta be vocal about this because you don't want your country's infrastructure to be built where 2 years later it collapses and kills people.
Well, that's what I was trying to say is like if the earthquake hadn't happened, it would have been completed. You
wouldn't know.
Okay? And it would have had all the cladding on it. It would have looked all nice. It was a government building, by the way, so you would have had big parts of the Thai government in this building. You would have had a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
It would have been packed to the brim with visitors and office workers and who knows what else. And then when the earthquake hits, everyone would have died.
I'm still having a hard time justifying how people are defending this government.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's
when
crazy.
faced with reality, right? They'd rather hide for them.
The Belt and Road Initiative is this disgusting...
It's imperialism, dude.
Yes, but they put such poor quality infrastructure.
It's bad imperialism. It's like the worst kind of imperialism.
If you go to...
It's Timu imperialism.
Yeah, if you go around the world where there are old colonies from European colonies, you'll find old buildings that still stand. You'll find railway tracks that still work.
There's old stuff
from hundreds of years ago.
4 countries that are still standing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Try go in 100 years to any of these places where China set up anything.
That's what I was talking to you. I don't want to dwell, but like we were talking about this the other day, like that Xiong'an new district they're building, right? It's supposed to be done in like 2030 something, 2035, 2039.
Yeah.
Why are you building structures in there right now? Because they will rot in 2 or 3 years.
Correct.
Like you shouldn't be building anything right now in China that nobody's living in because it's not going to exist anymore.
No.
It literally crumbles.
Yeah, it will. Anyway, just wanted to say that those two incidents are connected. And I don't know why more people aren't pointing this out. The fact that train station collapse that killed 16 people in Serbia and this Thai building collapse, which also killed people, by the way. We don't know
how many yet.
the full extent because we don't know the numbers. They're still actively doing rescue operations.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's still some signs of life. I don't know.
Yeah, and prayers for the people that are affected. This is
exactly.
rough.
It's the same. You're dealing with the same situation. So if you're going to go and employ them to do stuff in your country, you're an idiot. You know?
Agreed.
I remember
They're
It's
so
like, oh,
bad.
you're sweaty and hot from
Yeah, it's like
delivering cheap food,
so
and you
bad.
come on in, you know.
Let's just say no one's jostling one loose when they watch these. You know what I mean? You have to have ASMR. You have to have fixing. You have to have organizing. You have to have a pretty woman. What was it? Just stand in the absolute smog and dance it out. Oh, and then she goes, oh, here, you know. You want to drink some water?
It's pretty accurate.
I'm here on the side of the road, puking in front of my shoe.
Yeah.
Taxi comes and hits me. I got the puking blues.